The snow had been falling over Manhattan since dusk, soft and silent, wrapping the city in a cold, glittering stillness. Inside the Whitmore apartment on West 85th Street, the only lights came from the dim Christmas tree, its ornaments trembling each time Lauren paced the living room with one of the twins in her arms. Their fevers hadn't broken. Their little breaths were quick, uneven, frightening. But her husband, Cole, didn't answer her calls. Again. He had left hours earlier in his Mercedes, dressed in his tailored charcoal coat, saying he needed to meet investors. But Lauren knew that tone flat, impatient, already halfway out the door. She knew he wasn't going to a meeting. She had felt it in her bones for months. She had felt it every time he came home past midnight, smelling like expensive perfume that wasn't hers. At 11:47 p.m., her phone buzzed. A text. "Don't wait up. Big clients. Stay quiet so I can focus." Attached by accident, maybe, or maybe because arrogance made him careless, was a cropped photo. A reflection in a hotel mirror. A woman's exposed shoulder. A strand of long blonde hair. And Cole's hand on her waist. Lauren's heart didn't break. It simply stopped. Numbness rushed through her as the twins whimpered in their bassinet. A mother's exhaustion, a wife's last thread of hope both snapped at the same moment. She walked to the bedroom, desperate for something to steady her breathing, and that's when she saw it. A small Tiffany box tucked in Cole's coat pocket. Inside was a delicate necklace, pearls and diamonds far beyond anything he had ever bought her. The receipt read, "To Sierra, Christmas Eve." Her fingers trembled, her lips parted, but she made no sound. Outside, the wind howled. Inside, something inside Lauren shifted into place, quiet, firm, irreversible. When dawn finally crept over Manhattan, Cole stumbled through the front door, humming, smug, smelling of champagne and betrayal. He dropped his keys on the counter and called her name like nothing was wrong. But the apartment was silent. The twins were gone. Lauren was gone. Only a single note sat on the kitchen table. And when Cole read it, his smug smile vanished instantly. It said, "Merry Christmas, Cole. This time, you won't find us. Thanks for watching." And just as he lunged for his phone, he saw the hallway camera light blinking, recording everything he never intended the world to see. Lauren Whitmore had once imagined her 30s would be calm morning coffees, a job she didn't hate, a husband who kept his promises, and a home filled with the soft sounds of children's laughter. But somewhere between reality and the life she'd dreamed of, she lost herself without even noticing. The woman staring back from the bathroom mirror most mornings wasn't the bright, hopeful girl from Ohio. She was pale, exhausted, and stretched thin physically, emotionally, financially. At 30, Lauren worked at a customer service hotline for a tech support center in Midtown. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid enough for groceries and diapers when Cole didn't freeze the joint account to teach her about budgeting. She used to be confident, witty, charming, but months of juggling newborn twins, sleepless nights, and a husband who snapped at her for the smallest things had hollowed her out. She had learned to shrink herself, to speak softly, to apologize even when she wasn't wrong. Her pregnancy had been difficult from the start. Complications, early contractions, weeks on bed rest. Cole wasn't there for any of it. Too much pressure at work, he claimed. She believed him back then. She believed everything he said, even when her gut screamed something else. And after the twins, her postpartum anxiety wrapped around her like a tightening rope, one she never admitted to anyone. She pushed through every panic attack alone, whispering to herself, "Just breathe, Lauren. Just keep breathing." Her only moments of peace came during late nights when the babies finally slept. She would sit by the window with a warm blanket draped around her, watching the city lights flicker over the snowy sidewalks below. Sometimes she imagined packing her bags, walking out the door, starting over somewhere quiet, somewhere safe, somewhere she didn't feel invisible. But then reality reminded her she had nowhere to go. Her father had passed away years earlier. Her mother, lost in the fog of early dementia, lived in assisted care. There was no one left. And Cole used that. He knew she had no safety net. He liked being the one who decided everything, the bills, the schedules, the money, the mood of the household. If she cried, he called her dramatic. If she questioned him, he said she was insecure. If she asked for help, he reminded her she was lucky he stayed after the twins. She tried to justify him. She told herself the long nights at the office were for their future. She blamed the distance between them on stress, But deep down, she knew better. She'd seen the lipstick smudge on his collar weeks before Christmas. She'd smelled perfume on his jacket that wasn't hers. She'd found strange charges on the credit card under female names he brushed off as client expenses. She wasn't naive. She was just scared to confront the truth. Still, even in her weakest moments, Lauren loved fiercely her babies, her family, the home she tried to hold together. A quiet resilience simmered beneath her gentleness. She didn't know it yet, but that resilience was about to become her greatest weapon. Because behind her tired eyes and trembling hands, a fire waited, one that only needed one more spark. And that spark came the moment she discovered where Cole had really been on Christmas Eve. The moment that would transform Lauren from a trembling wife into a woman who finally refused to be broken. Manhattan during Christmas had a way of making people believe in magic. Strings of golden lights draped across Fifth Avenue, the air smelled of roasted chestnuts, and tourists moved like slow waves beneath the towering skyline. But for Lauren Whitmore, Manhattan had never felt colder or more unforgiving than it did that December. Their apartment sat on West 85th Street, inside a well-maintained pre-war building with marble floors, quiet hallways, and a doorman who always smiled politely but never long enough to seem sincere. From the outside, it looked like the perfect home for a young family, warm lights behind tall windows, wreaths hanging on doors, the faint echo of jazz playing from some neighbor's stereo. Inside, however, it felt more like a museum of a life she never truly belonged to. The living room was modern, sleek, curated entirely by Cole to impress coworkers during the occasional wine and networking nights he insisted on hosting. A gray sectional, untouched throw pillows, a glass coffee table that was too sharp for babies, and a giant flat screen mounted above a faux fireplace that only glowed when Cole wanted ambience. It wasn't a home, it was a showroom. Lauren's touches, soft blankets, baby toys, framed photos were kept to a minimum because Cole said it made the place look cluttered. Even the Christmas decorations were chosen to match his preferred palette: silver, navy, and white. Cold colors. Sterile, pretty, but empty. The tree itself was beautiful, towering almost to the ceiling, but Lauren felt like an outsider standing next to it. Yet Manhattan wasn't just the apartment. The city itself was a character in her life, both comforting and cruel. She'd sit at the window most nights, watching taxis glide past the snow-covered sidewalks, imagining all the people heading somewhere warm, somewhere safe. Sometimes she longed to be one of them, someone whose life wasn't measured in unanswered calls and silent dinners. Nearby stood the buildings that defined Cole's world. Stonebridge Capital headquarters on Park Avenue, with glass walls that reflected the city lights like armor. Cole walked those hallways like he owned them, his Montblanc pen clipped to his suit pocket, his ambition echoing off every polished surface. Just a few blocks away, the Lancaster Suites Hotel rose above the skyline, a symbol of luxury, warmth, and power. Christmas wreaths hung on its revolving doors, and the lobby smelled faintly of cedar and cinnamon. Lauren had only been inside twice when she helped coordinate an event years ago, but she remembered the feeling, like stepping into a different universe, one where people weren't invisible. Ironically, that hotel would soon become the place she escaped to. The harsh winter had also turned Manhattan's streets into icy pathways. Snow coated the curbs, slush soaked through boots, and cold wind whipped past her face each time she stepped outside. With newborn twins, the city became even more treacherous. Every errand was a battle. Every doctor's appointment felt like a trek through a frozen maze. Yet, something about Manhattan kept her breathing. Maybe it was the quiet hum at night, maybe the glow of street lamps against snow, or maybe the knowledge that millions of people around her were fighting their own battles too. But what Lauren didn't know, what she couldn't yet imagine, was that this very city, so vast and indifferent, was about to witness the night she disappeared with her twins. And it was the same city where one unexpected ally had already begun searching for her before her husband even knew she was gone. Cole Whitmore had always been the kind of man who could walk into any room and make people turn. Not because he was kind, or charismatic, or admirable, but because he carried himself with a sharp, calculating confidence that demanded attention. At 34, Cole was the golden boy of Stonebridge Capital. Tall, well-groomed, impeccably dressed, he looked like he belonged on the cover of a financial magazine, hands clasped, chin raised, eyes cold. To outsiders, he was impressive. To those who worked under him, he was terrifying. Cole had grown up craving power. Born in a small Pennsylvania town, he had watched his father work 3 jobs while his mother juggled bills and excuses. Cole vowed he would never be that kind of man. But instead of becoming hardworking and honorable, he twisted that vow into something darker. The hunger to dominate, to control, to never be vulnerable again. And he carried that hunger into every part of his life, including his marriage. Cole liked Lauren quiet. He liked her dependent. He liked the way she apologized, even when she hadn't done anything wrong. To him, that was stability, not love. A wife who didn't question him, didn't challenge him, didn't interrupt his climb to power. But the truth was, Cole had grown bored of that version of stability long ago. When Sierra Hale joined Stonebridge, young, ambitious, intoxicatingly confident, Cole felt something he hadn't felt in years. Ego. She fed it constantly. Compliments. Laughter. Late-night drinks. "You deserve someone who matches your level," she whispered once during an after-hours meeting, her hand brushing his. It didn't take long for Cole to take the bait. In Sierra, he saw what he wanted the world to believe about him. Desirable, successful, irresistible. He showered her with expensive gifts, hidden credit card charges, quick wire transfers, and that Tiffany necklace he bought on Christmas Eve. He justified everything by telling himself he was owed. This after the stress of work and fatherhood. Who would blame him? Certainly not Sierra, who played her role perfectly. But what Cole didn't know, what he couldn't imagine, was that Sierra wasn't with him out of love. She had her own reasons, her own agenda, and her own secrets. She had been recording their conversations. She had kept every message, every gift receipt, every slip of arrogance he spilled after too many whiskeys. She wasn't loyal. She was collecting leverage. Still, Cole walked through his life as if he was invincible. In the office, he barked orders with that clipped, condescending tone that made junior staff shrink. He slammed doors during conference calls, snapped at interns for minor errors, and pretended not to see the fear he created. And yet, whenever executives were near, he transformed into a smooth-talking professional with the charm of a politician on camera. At home, he dismissed Lauren's exhaustion as drama, her concerns as nagging, her emotions as hormones. He told himself he was a good provider. He had no idea he was already losing everything. The night he left Lauren and the twins alone on Christmas Eve, he didn't feel guilt. He felt freedom slipping into a black Mercedes, heading toward the Plaza Hotel with Sierra on his arm. But Cole's downfall had already begun. Because every cruel word, every lie, every betrayal was building a trail he'd soon have to answer for. And when he returned home that morning, calling Lauren's name with annoyance rather than affection, he had no idea what awaited him. He had no idea his entire world had already vanished, just like his wife and twins. The sun was barely rising when Cole stormed through the apartment, his shoes echoing sharply against the hardwood floors. "Lauren," he barked, irritation tightening his jaw. "You're being ridiculous. Where are the kids?" His voice carried a mix of annoyance and entitlement, never fear, never concern. But the silence that greeted him was thick, absolute, unnatural. He searched every room. The nursery, the bathroom, the living room, even the tiny laundry closet. Nothing. The twins' blankets were gone, their diaper bag, Lauren's coat, her phone charger. Only her wedding ring, placed carefully on the counter, hinted that she'd made a decision, not a mistake. But Cole's panic didn't truly strike until he stepped into the building lobby. The doorman looked up from his desk. "Morning, Mr. Whitmore. Your wife left around 4. She had 2 infants with her." Cole stiffened. "She left? With both babies? At 4 in the morning?" She looked shaken, the doorman continued gently, but determined. "She refused help." Cole clenched his jaw. A small crowd of tenants waiting for holiday deliveries glanced over, sensing tension. He hated that being watched, judged, whispered about. He forced a smile. "My wife's a little dramatic. I'm sure she's visiting a friend." But his voice cracked on the last word. A woman from the mailroom whispered to another, "Is he talking about that sweet girl with the twins?" "I heard him yelling at her last week," another muttered. Cole's chest tightened. Gossip, his greatest enemy. He strode toward the elevator, ready to escape the stairs, when a security guard called after him. "Sir, there's something you should see." On the surveillance screen, time-stamped 4:06 a.m., Lauren appeared in the hallway. She looked pale, exhausted, but fiercely focused. She held both babies close, diaper bag over her shoulder. She paused in front of the camera, not accidentally. She looked straight into the lens, eyes clear, jaw set, as if leaving a message only he would understand. Then she walked away. Cole's throat went dry. That look, it wasn't fear, it was finality. The guard glanced at him with sympathy that felt like an insult. "Sir, do you want us to alert the police?" Cole shook his head sharply. "No, absolutely not. If police got involved, people would ask questions. Questions about his whereabouts, questions about Sierra, questions he couldn't afford." Instead, he marched outside into the biting winter air and pulled out his phone. He called Lauren. Straight to voicemail. He called her again. Voicemail. He texted, "Come home. Stop being ridiculous." Then, "Where are you?" Then, colder, "You're making a mistake." And finally, desperate but still arrogant, "You can't do this." No response. He turned around and realized half the lobby was watching him through the windows, whispering, judging. The perfect family man unraveling at sunrise. Finally, he looked up at the doorman. Did she get into a cab? Did she meet someone? The doorman hesitated. There was a car, black SUV. It pulled up right as she stepped outside. Was it? Cole's heart slammed against his ribs. Did she get in? Yes. And the driver seemed to know her. Cole's face drained completely. Because there was only one person he could think of who drove a black SUV at dawn. And that person was the last man Cole ever wanted near his wife. The moment the elevator doors closed behind her at 4 a.m., Lauren felt her body finally collapse under the weight of everything she had held together for months. Her arms shook as she clutched the twins, their tiny breaths warm against her chest. The lobby blurred. Her vision swam, but she didn't stop moving. She couldn't. She was afraid that if she paused for even 1 second, she would crumble into pieces she'd never be able to put back together. The cold outside slapped her across the face the instant she stepped through the revolving doors. Snowflakes clung to her eyelashes. Her thin coat wasn't enough, but she had no time to go back for anything else. She just kept walking, boots crunching through the icy sidewalk, breath fogging in the wind. The city was quiet, almost haunting. Christmas lights glowed softly from windows, mocking her with a warmth she no longer felt. Every muscle in her body ached. Her shoulders throbbed from carrying the diaper bag. Her stitches still pulled from the emergency C-section months earlier. And as she waited at the curb, shivering, a terrifying realization sank in. She had no plan, no money, no destination, no one to call. Her hands trembled so violently she nearly dropped her phone when she pulled it out. She opened the banking app, frozen. Cole had cut her off again. Tears blurred the screen. She shut her eyes, whispering to steady her breathing. "You can't fall apart now. Not now. Not in front of them. Iftar." But her voice cracked as the twins whimpered, their cries threading through the icy air like tiny arrows straight through her chest. She pulled them closer, rocking gently even as her own breath grew ragged. That's when the panic hit. Her chest tightened, squeezing her lungs like a fist. Her vision dimmed at the edges. Her hands went cold, then numb. She couldn't swallow. Couldn't breathe. The world tilted dangerously. She gripped the stroller handle to stay upright. "Not now," she gasped. "Please, not now." A car passed. Someone glanced her way but didn't stop. Mother with newborns in the snow? Not their problem. It never was. Lauren sank onto a frozen bench, heart pounding so loudly it drowned out the city noise. She felt like she was sinking underwater, struggling for air that wouldn't come. Tears streamed down her face, hot and silent, disappearing into the collar of her coat. For a moment, just one, she wondered if Cole had been right. If she really was weak. Dramatic. A burden. Maybe she couldn't survive on her own. Maybe she should have stayed. Endured. Pretended. Then one of the twins let out a small, sharp cry, a sound drenched in need and innocence. And Lauren felt something inside her snap back into place. Not strength. Not yet, but something close to instinct, survival, motherhood in its rawest form. She stood, legs shaking, and forced herself forward, one breath at a time. But before she could take 10 steps, headlights cut through the falling snow. A black SUV approached slowly, stopping in front of her. The window rolled down, and a deep, calm voice she recognized from years ago spoke softly through the cold air. "Lauren, get in. You and the babies need warmth." Her breath caught. Her heartbeat stalled. Because the man inside wasn't a stranger. It was Evan Lancaster, and his appearance on that street would change everything Lauren thought she knew about her future. Lauren hesitated before stepping into the SUV. Snowflakes clung to her lashes, her breath trembling as she held the twins close. Evan Lancaster leaned over from the driver's seat, his expression calm but urgent. He wasn't smiling, he never smiled when something was wrong, but his eyes held a steadiness that pulled her back from the edge of panic. "Come on," he murmured. "They're freezing." She slid into the warm car, the heat wrapping around her like a blanket she didn't know she needed. Evan reached back, adjusting the rear heater vents toward the twins' faces with careful precision. He moved with the ease of someone who thought before he acted, something Lauren wasn't used to. Finally, he looked at her. "You shouldn't be out here alone." Tears burned her eyes, and she swallowed hard. I didn't know where else to go. "I can't. You don't need to explain yet," he said softly, "but you do need rest." For a moment, silence stretched between them, thick with unspoken history. She had met Evan 3 years earlier, long before the twins, when she helped coordinate a charity gala for Lancaster Suites. He was intimidating back then, still was now, but he had treated her with an odd kindness she never forgot. He remembered details. He listened. And when he complimented her work, she didn't feel small. She felt seen. She assumed he forgot her. But when he said her name back in the snow-covered street, something in his voice told her he never had. The car eased onto the avenue. Lauren shivered, gripping the diaper bag. "I shouldn't be here. Cole, he'll lose it when he finds out." Evan's jaw tightened. "I know." She blinked. "You know?" He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he handed her a folded sheet of paper from the console. She hesitated, then opened it, and her breath froze. It was an internal Stonebridge report, a confidential one. Highlighted in yellow were Cole's signatures authorizing a series of unauthorized fund transfers, money routed through fake client events and PR expenses. Money that didn't add up. Lauren's pulse thundered. What is this?" "Evidence," Evan said calmly, "of fraud, and he's been under quiet investigation for months." Her throat tightened. "Fraud? Cole?" Evan nodded. "Your husband is in deeper trouble than you know. The company has been building a case, but last week, things escalated. And yesterday," he hesitated. "Yesterday what?" Her voice barely a whisper. "Yesterday, someone leaked documents tying Cole to a major financial breach, enough to bury him. We just don't know who." Lauren stared at the paper, cold rippling through her despite the car's warmth. "Why are you showing this to me?" "Because," Evan said, meeting her eyes steadily, "you're the one person who can protect your children from the fallout. Cole will spin this. He'll manipulate, threaten, pretend none of it is real. And if things get worse, he might try to take the twins to protect himself." Her breath caught. "Take the twins?" Evan nodded once. "A man like him will do anything to control the narrative, even if it means hurting you." "But he know." Lauren felt the world tilt again, but this time not from panic. From anger. Cold, sharp anger that replaced the fear. She clenched the report in her trembling hands. "Evan, why are you helping me?" His expression softened in a way she had never seen. "Because someone should have helped you a long time ago." Her breath hitched warmth, spreading through her chest, unexpected and terrifying. But before she could speak, Evan's phone buzzed on the console. He glanced at the screen, then exhaled sharply. "Lauren, you need to hear this. It's from Cole. And he just reported you and the twins missing under suspicious circumstances." Lauren didn't remember the exact moment her body started shaking. Maybe it was the cold. Maybe it was the panic. Maybe it was the realization that, for the first time since she married Cole Whitmore, she was finally truly alone. Not alone as in abandoned. Alone as in unanchored, floating through a city too large, too fast, too indifferent to notice a young mother clutching 2 infants at dawn. The streets were nearly empty, just the hum of distant buses and the faint glow of snow-coated street lamps. Her breath came out in sharp, uneven bursts, fogging the air. The twins whimpered against her chest, their tiny voices trembling like glass. She tried to soothe them, but her hands wouldn't stop shaking. This was a mistake. she whispered, her voice breaking. I can't do this. I don't even know where I'm going. Her phone buzzed, a cold vibration that cut straight to her bones. A message from Cole appeared on the screen. Come home. Stop acting insane. Her stomach twisted. Even now, even after everything, he still had the ability to make her doubt herself. Her fingers trembled over the delete button, and she forced herself not to respond. Not one word. She reminded herself why she left. The Tiffany gift. The photo. The lies. The endless manipulation. The way he looked at her, as if she were a burden he was trapped with. She stepped off the curb, but dizziness washed over her so violently she had to grab a street sign for balance. Her heart began to pound so fast she thought it might burst. Her hands went numb, her knees buckled, and she sank into the snowy sidewalk, hugging the twins tight so they wouldn't fall with her. Her breaths came in quick, shallow pulls. No, no, please, she gasped. Not now. Please, not now. A panic attack. A brutal one. The kind she used to hide from Cole by locking herself in the bathroom and claiming she was taking a long shower. The kind he called dramatics. The world tilted. Headlights blurred. Her ears rang. She hunched over the stroller, willing herself not to pass out. She couldn't. Not with the babies exposed to the cold. Not out here, where anything could happen. A stranger walked past, glanced at her, then kept going. Another stopped a few feet away, hesitated, then hurried off. Nobody wanted to involve themselves with a crying mother in the snow. The loneliness hit harder than the cold. Her tears mingled with melting snow. Her voice cracked as she whispered to her babies, I'm trying. I'm really trying. And then, through her blurred vision, she saw something. No, someone approaching, slowly. A pair of dark boots. A long coat dusted with snow. A familiar silhouette, framed by the streetlight behind him. Lauren? She froze. The voice was deep, steady, unexpected. She knew that voice. She looked up, breath catching painfully in her throat. Her pulse stumbled. Standing before her, worry etched across his face, was a man she never thought she'd see again. Especially not tonight, especially not like this. Evan Lancaster. And the way his eyes softened when he saw the twins in her arms told her this encounter wasn't a coincidence. But before she could speak, Evan said something that made her heart drop and her world shift in an entirely new direction. Lauren stared at Evan as if he were a ghost materializing from the snow. Her breath came out in quick, uneven bursts. She hadn't seen him in nearly 2 years, not since that charity event where he thanked her for saving a last-minute disaster with calm efficiency. Back then, she thought he barely remembered her name. Now he was kneeling in front of her on a frozen Manhattan sidewalk at sunrise. Lauren, he repeated softly, voice steady, gentle. You shouldn't be out here alone with 2 newborns in this cold. Her throat tightened. She wanted to answer, but the words tangled inside her. The twins whimpered, and Evan instinctively reached out, adjusting the blanket around them with the kind of tenderness she wasn't used to seeing from a man. Certainly not from Cole. Finally, Lauren found her voice. Why? Why are you here? Evan exhaled, the breath misting in the air. I was driving back from the hotel. I saw someone sitting on the bench and almost kept going. Then, I recognized you. Recognized. Not guessed, not assumed. Recognized. It was such a simple word, but it hit her like warmth in winter. He stood and opened the SUV door. Let me take you somewhere safe. You're freezing. Her instinct screamed to trust no one, not after Cole. But she was so tired, her body shaking harder with every gust of wind. She looked at the twins, then at Evan. His expression wasn't pity. It was concern, genuine, steady, anchored. She nodded. Once inside the warm SUV, her tears came without warning. Silent at first, then harder, until she was shaking again. Evan didn't ask questions. He simply adjusted the heater, passed her a bottle of water, and waited. When she calmed enough to speak, she whispered the truth. He spent Christmas with her. With Sierra. He sent me a message by accident. Or maybe he didn't care. I don't know anymore. Evan's jaw clenched so subtly she might have missed it if she hadn't been watching him closely. I know about Sierra. Lauren blinked. What? Evan reached for the glove compartment and pulled out a slim, sealed envelope. This was delivered anonymously to my office last week. She hesitated before opening it. Inside were printed screenshots, messages between Sierra and someone else, not Cole. A different name, Julian Cross. A known competitor of Stonebridge Capital, ruthless, cutthroat. A man Cole openly despised. Lauren's eyebrows drew together. Why would Sierra be messaging Julian Cross? Evan's voice lowered. Because she isn't just Cole's mistress. She's working with Cross to sabotage Stonebridge from the inside. Lauren's breath hitched. What? Why would she? Leverage, Evan said. Power, promotion, money. Sierra's been feeding Julian information for months. And Cole, blind, arrogant Cole, never realized he was being played. The documents in Lauren's shaking hands painted a horrifying picture. Sierra wasn't just a home wrecker. She was setting Cole up for a fall so catastrophic it could destroy him professionally and legally. He won't believe me, Lauren whispered. He never does. Evan's eyes softened. You don't need him to believe you. You need to protect your children. And yourself. Before she could answer, Evan's phone lit up with a new message. He read it, then drew a slow breath. You should prepare yourself, Lauren. She stared at him, heart pounding. For what? Evan turned the screen toward her. A breaking news alert glowed bright in the dim SUV. Stonebridge Capital executive Cole Whitmore under internal investigation for financial misconduct. Lauren's blood ran cold. And the next message on Evan's phone was even worse, because it had Cole's name and hers. Lauren had never stayed in a hotel as elegant as the Lancaster Suites, let alone stepped into one holding 2 infants while wearing the same clothes she'd worn through an entire night of heartbreak. When Evan guided her through the glowing lobby, warm lights, marble floors, towering Christmas arrangements, it felt like stepping into a world she didn't belong to. A world too polished, too calm, too far from the chaos she'd escaped. But for the first time in months, Lauren didn't feel small. She felt sheltered. A staff member hurried toward them the moment they stepped inside. Mr. Lancaster, the suite is fully prepared. Suite? Her eyes widened, but Evan gently touched her arm. Let me help tonight. Tomorrow we'll figure out everything else. If Wido. Upstairs, the penthouse suite opened to a soft wash of golden light, plush carpets, and a quiet so peaceful it made her want to collapse on the floor and cry. Evan carried the twin stroller inside and dimmed the lights to avoid waking them. You're safe here, he said softly. Cole won't find you. Something in Lauren's chest loosened at those words. It was the first time in months she felt shielded instead of exposed. She took a slow breath. Evan, I can't stay here for long. I don't want to cause trouble. You're not causing trouble. His voice was gentle but unwavering. You're surviving. And survival isn't something to apologize for. The words hit her unexpectedly hard. She turned away to hide the tears forming, walking toward the window overlooking the snowy city below. The skyline stretched endlessly, beautiful, intimidating, alive. A version of Manhattan she'd forgotten existed. Evan placed a softbox on the counter behind her. I brought something for you. She looked inside. Essentials, warm clothes, a phone charger, toiletries, formula for the twins, a soft robe, slippers. Things she hadn't even realized she needed until she saw them. I didn't know your sizes, he said awkwardly. The staff helped. For the first time that night, Lauren felt a small, fragile smile tug at her lips. She showered, really showered for the first time in days. Hot water washed over her skin, melting away layers of fear and exhaustion. She changed into the warm robe, brushed out her damp hair, and stared at her reflection in the mirror. She didn't recognize the woman there. But she wasn't the broken version of herself either. This woman had survived the cold, survived betrayal, survived leaving. She wasn't strong yet, but she was no longer falling apart. When she stepped back into the living room, Evan looked up from the twins' bassinets. His eyes softened, not with pity, but with something steadier. Respect, recognition, quiet admiration she wasn't sure she deserved. You look. He paused, searching for the right word. Like someone who finally remembered she matters. Her breath trembled. No one had said something like that to her in years. She sank onto the sofa across from him. Evan, why are you helping me? Really? He hesitated, then spoke with honesty that made her pulse quicken. Because I've watched too many good people get crushed by men like Cole, and because he stopped, clearing his throat. Because I should have helped you the first time. I realized something was wrong. Her brows knit. What do you mean? The first time? Evan didn't answer. Instead, he reached into his jacket and placed a sealed envelope on the table between them. There's something I need to tell you. Something I should have said years ago. Lauren stared at the envelope, her heart pounding so loudly she swore he could hear it. And when she finally reached for it, Evan whispered the one sentence that would turn her entire world upside down. The morning of the Stonebridge Winter Gala was cold enough to freeze the Hudson, but inside the Lancaster Suites penthouse, Lauren's resolve burned with a clarity she had never known before. She wasn't the terrified woman who'd run through the snow clutching 2 infants. She wasn't the wife who apologized for things that weren't her fault. She wasn't the woman Cole had controlled, diminished, or dismissed. She was someone new. Someone rebuilt from the ashes. Evan had spent the last 2 days gathering evidence, emails, expense reports, Sierra's hidden messages, internal audits Cole thought no one would ever see. Lauren had spent those same days recovering, stabilizing, and preparing. Not for revenge, for truth, for justice, for freedom. The gala was Stonebridge Capital's crown jewel event of the year. The night executives bragged, investors schmoozed, and reputations gleamed under chandeliers. Cole would be there. So would Sierra. So would Julian Cross, the man secretly orchestrating Cole's collapse from the shadows. Lauren had no intention of hiding anymore. Evan escorted her into the venue, his presence commanding enough to shift the entire room's attention. People whispered, pointed, tried to figure out who she was, this quiet woman walking beside one of Manhattan's most respected CEOs. Lauren kept her chin high, her heartbeat steady. Across the room, Cole turned. His eyes widened, his smirk vanished, his champagne flute tilted dangerously in his hand. Lauren? His voice cracked across the noise of the ballroom. Sierra stiffened beside him, clutching her glittering clutch. Julian Cross, just a few steps away, paused mid-conversation, eyes narrowing with interest. Cole stormed toward her. What are you doing here? Where are the kids? What? Evan stepped between them with calm authority. The twins are safe, something you should have ensured long before now. Cole's face reddened. Stay out of my marriage. You lost that privilege, Evan replied coldly, when you abandoned your wife and the mother of your children on Christmas Eve. Murmurs rippled through the ballroom. Heads turned, phones lifted discreetly. Lauren took a step forward, her voice steady. You reported me missing to protect yourself, not because you cared. Cole's jaw ticked. You're unstable, Lauren. You ran off with the twins. I ran because you lied, because you humiliated me, because you didn't care if your own children were freezing. A gasp arose somewhere in the crowd. Sierra tried to slink backward, but Lauren's gaze snapped to her. And you, she said quietly, you thought you could destroy my marriage without consequences? Sierra lifted her chin arrogantly. Your marriage was already dead. Evan calmly handed a folder to the Stonebridge board chair, who happened to be standing nearby. Actually, the only thing that's dead is the cover-up. The chair opened the folder. The first page contained screenshots of Sierra's messages to Julian Cross. The second page showed Cole's unauthorized fund transfers. The third page held a recording transcript, Sierra laughing about how easy it was to manipulate Cole. The room erupted in whispers. Cole lunged for the folder. This is fake. The board chair snapped. Enough. He turned to security. Escort Mr. Whitmore out immediately. Until further notice, he is suspended, pending investigation. Cole froze. Sierra's face drained of color. Julian Cross disappeared into the crowd like smoke. Lauren didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Cole, your lies caught up with you. This is the consequence you earned. Security seized his arms. Cole twisted, shouting Lauren's name, but nobody came to his defense. As he was dragged across the ballroom floor, Lauren felt something inside her finally shatter free. And then Evan leaned toward her, his voice low enough for only her to hear. Lauren, there's still something else you need to know. She swallowed hard. What? It's about the envelope I gave you. You haven't opened the second page yet. Lauren stood in the center of the ballroom, long after Cole had been dragged out, long after Sierra disappeared behind a wall of reporters, and long after the board members retreated into crisis meetings. The music had stopped. Conversations dimmed. But the eyes, hundreds of them, remained on her. Not with pity, not with judgment, with respect. It was a feeling she scarcely recognized. For years, Lauren had lived in the shadows of her own life, shrinking herself so others wouldn't feel uncomfortable. She apologized for her existence, her needs, her exhaustion, her tears. Cole had called it weakness, immaturity, instability. He made her believe she was unworthy of anything better. But now, standing in the golden glow of the chandeliers, something inside her rose tall, unshaken, luminous. She inhaled slowly, letting that feeling expand in her chest. Evan stepped beside her, not in front of her, not to speak for her, but to stand with her. And that alone told Lauren she had stepped into a new chapter of her life, one built on equality instead of fear. Softly, he said, "Look around you." She did. People, not just strangers, but men and women in tailored suits, investors with icy eyes, assistants who once trembled under Cole's voice, were watching her with admiration. One woman placed her hand over her heart, nodding at Lauren with a look that said, "We saw you suffer. We see you now." Lauren blinked against the sudden warmth behind her eyes. "This is the beginning," Evan said. "Not the end." "My beginning?" she whispered. "No." His voice softened. "Your return." The words struck deeper than she expected. She wasn't starting from zero. She was reclaiming everything that had been buried: her strength, her confidence, her dreams. Evan handed her the envelope again, the one with the second page she hadn't opened. Her hands trembled as she unfolded it. Inside was a letter. Her breath halted. It was her own handwriting. From 2 years ago. A thank you note she had written to Evan after the charity gala she coordinated. She didn't even remember sending it. "Thank you for treating me like my work mattered. If you are stubborn." Below it, Evan had attached a second page, a personal note in his own handwriting. "Your work didn't matter because of the event. It mattered because you did it with heart. If you ever need help, real help, find me. I will always show up." Lauren's breath caught in her throat. "You kept this?" she whispered. Evan nodded once. "You were the first person who ever made me stand still. The first person who reminded me that kindness isn't weakness. I didn't forget that." But her chest tightened, not with fear this time, but with something quiet and warm. Something she'd almost forgotten existed. Hope. Before she could answer, the ballroom doors swung open and cameras flashed violently. News outlets had arrived, hungry, relentless. Journalists shouted questions about Cole, Sierra, financial crimes, the investigation. Lauren tensed. Evan placed a gentle hand at her back, guiding her forward. "You don't need to run anymore." "But what do I say?" she whispered. "Say the truth," he said. "The truth always wins in the end." The camera zoomed in. Microphones stretched toward her. Reporters called her name. Lauren lifted her chin, squared her shoulders, and faced the storm head-on. Her voice was steady, clear, unshaken. "I'm not here as Cole Whitmore's wife," she said. "I'm here as a mother, as a survivor, and as a woman who refuses to be silenced anymore." End quote. A wave of applause rippled through the ballroom, quiet at first, then growing, then thunderous. For the first time in years, Lauren felt whole. But the moment she stepped off the stage, her phone buzzed with a message that froze her in place. "Lauren, it's urgent. You need to see what Cole did next." And Lauren stood in the center of the ballroom, long after Cole had been dragged out, long after Sierra disappeared behind a wall of reporters, and long after the board members retreated into crisis meetings. The music had stopped. Conversations dimmed. But the eyes, hundreds of them, remained on her. Not with pity, not with judgment, with respect. It was a feeling she scarcely recognized. For years, Lauren had lived in the shadows of her own life, shrinking herself so others wouldn't feel uncomfortable. She apologized for her existence, her needs, her exhaustion, her tears. Cole had called it weakness, immaturity, instability. He made her believe she was unworthy of anything better. But now, standing in the golden glow of the chandeliers, something inside her rose tall, unshaken, luminous. She inhaled slowly, letting that feeling expand in her chest. Evan stepped beside her, not in front of her, not to speak for her, but to stand with her. And that alone told Lauren she had stepped into a new chapter of her life, one built on equality instead of fear. Softly, he said, "Look around you." She did. People, not just strangers, but men and women in tailored suits, investors with icy eyes, Assistants who once trembled under Cole's voice were watching her with admiration. One woman placed her hand over her heart, nodding at Lauren with a look that said, "We saw you suffer. We see you now." Lauren blinked against the sudden warmth behind her eyes. "This is the beginning," Evan said, "not the end." "My beginning?" she whispered. "No." His voice softened. "Your return." The words struck deeper than she expected. She wasn't starting from zero. She was reclaiming everything that had been buried, her strength, her confidence, her dreams. Evan handed her the envelope again, the one with the second page she hadn't opened. Her hands trembled as she unfolded it. Inside was a letter. Her breath halted. It was her own handwriting. From 2 years ago. A thank you note she had written to Evan after the charity gala she coordinated. She didn't even remember sending it. "Thank you for treating me like my work mattered. Everyone." Below it, Evan had attached a second page, a personal note in his own handwriting. "Your work didn't matter because of the event. It mattered because you did it with heart. If you ever need help, real help, find me. I will always show up." Lauren's breath caught in her throat. "You kept this?" she whispered. Evan nodded once. "You were the first person who ever made me stand still. The first person who reminded me that kindness isn't weakness. I didn't forget that. If it dollars rind." Her chest tightened, not with fear this time, but with something quiet and warm. Something she'd almost forgotten existed. Hope. Before she could answer, the ballroom doors swung open and cameras flashed violently. News outlets had arrived hungry, relentless. Journalists shouted questions about Cole, Sierra, financial crimes, the investigation. Lauren tensed. Evan placed a gentle hand at her back, guiding her forward. "You don't need to run anymore." "But what do I say?" she whispered. "Say the truth," he said. "The truth always wins in the end." The cameras zoomed in. Microphones stretched toward her. Reporters called her name. Lauren lifted her chin, squared her shoulders, and faced the storm head-on. Her voice was steady, clear, unshaken. "I'm not here as Cole Whitmore's wife," she said. "I'm here as a mother, as a survivor, and as a woman who refuses to be silenced anymore." 25 noses. A wave of applause rippled through the ballroom, quiet at first, then growing, then thunderous. For the first time in years, Lauren felt whole. But the moment she stepped off the stage, her phone buzzed with a message that froze her in place. "Lauren, it's urgent. You need to see what Cole did next." Lauren stepped into the quiet hallway of the gala venue, her phone still buzzing in her hand. She swallowed hard before answering, her heart pounding against her ribs with a pressure she hadn't felt since the night she left home. "Lauren, it's Officer Raymond," the voice said, calm but urgent. "We need to speak with you immediately. It's regarding your husband." Her breath caught. "Cole? What happened?" "I can't discuss details over the phone." "Where are you right now?" Evan gently took the phone from her, speaking with the steadiness she didn't yet have. "This is Evan Lancaster. She's with me. We're still at the Stonebridge Gala." There was a short pause. "I know who you are, Mr. Lancaster. Please keep her safe. We're sending 2 officers to your location now." The call ended. Lauren's pulse quickened. "Safe? From what? What did Cole do?" Evan placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Whatever it is, we'll face it together." But Lauren felt anything but calm. As they walked toward the lounge for privacy, the murmur of reporters echoed faintly behind them. Her phone buzzed again, this time a text notification. "Unknown number. You think you've won? You have no idea what's coming." Her blood ran cold. The message was too deliberate, too pointed to ignore. She handed the phone to Evan, who read it, jaw tightening. "Cole," he muttered. "He's unraveling." But before Evan could say more, the double glass doors swung open, and 2 uniformed officers entered the hallway. Officer Raymond, a tall man with tired eyes, stepped forward. "Mrs. Whitmore," he said gently, "we need to ask you some questions." Lauren forced herself to steady her voice. "Is this about the investigation? About what happened tonight?" Officer Raymond exchanged a glance with his partner. "Not exactly. Your husband filed a counterclaim." She blinked. "A counterclaim? For what?" "He reported that you fled with the children while emotionally unstable. He's requesting emergency custody. That is a CEDAS." Lauren's knees weakened, and Evan supported her before she collapsed. He did what?" she whispered. Officer Raymond continued calmly. He's accusing you of kidnapping your own children. The world tilted, the walls pressing inward. That's not true. I left because he abandoned us. Because he lied. Because... We know, the officer said firmly. And that's why we're here. To hear your side before anything escalates. Evan stepped forward, his voice sharp. She's not speaking without legal counsel. Officer Raymond nodded. Understandable, but there's something else. Sierra Hale gave a statement tonight. Lauren's breath stopped. Sierra? Why would she? She claims Cole feared for the children's safety because you became aggressive the night you left. Lauren felt the air leave her lungs. She's lying. She's trying to protect herself. We're aware she may have motivation, the officer replied carefully. But the court will temporarily consider both reports. Lauren shook her head, tears rising. I didn't hurt my children. I protected them. We believe you, Officer Raymond said, but Cole submitted additional evidence, something we need you to verify. He handed Lauren a printed photograph. Her hands trembled violently as she lifted it. It was an image of her holding the twins, crying on the icy street the night she left. From a distance, without context, her anguish looked like instability, desperation, even danger. And in the corner of the image was a timestamp. Cole had obtained this. Cole had used this. Cole had turned her pain into ammunition. Lauren's voice cracked. He really wants to take my babies from me. Evan's eyes darkened with a calm, controlled fury. He won't, I promise you. But before he could say more, Officer Raymond spoke again. There's something else you should know, Mrs. Whitmore. Lauren wiped her tears, bracing herself. Cole disappeared 30 minutes ago, and no one knows where he went. The officers escorted Lauren and Evan out of the gala through a private exit to avoid reporters. Snow drifted across the pavement, carried by a cold wind that made Lauren clutch her coat tighter around herself. The twins were safe upstairs in the Lancaster suite, but her heart still raced as if they were in danger right beside her. How could he vanish? Lauren whispered. He was just dragged out. Where would he go? Officer Raymond shook his head. We don't know. His phone was left in his car. Wallet too. That concerns us. Lauren's mind spun. Cole never went anywhere without his phone. Not even the bathroom. The idea of him roaming Manhattan, furious, irrational, was terrifying. Evan placed a gentle hand at the small of her back. You're not alone. Whatever he's trying to do, it won't work. But Lauren's fear wasn't about Cole's legal moves anymore. It was the unpredictability of a man whose world had just collapsed. Inside the hotel, the warmth hit her skin too quickly, and she felt dizzy. Evan guided her into a quiet lounge, dimly lit, with plush chairs and a large window overlooking Central Park blanketed in white. Officer Raymond stood nearby, giving them space but still watchful. Lauren sank into a chair. Her voice was barely a whisper. He's desperate now. That makes him dangerous. Evan crouched beside her. Cole's actions are being monitored. He won't be allowed anywhere near you or the twins. But he still found a way to file for custody, she said shakily. He used my pain as evidence. He's always been good at twisting things. And we will untwist them, Evan said firmly. Every lie he built, we will dismantle, piece by piece. Officer Raymond approached. There's something else. We checked Cole's apartment. Lauren held her breath. He left a note. Evan straightened. What kind of note? The officer hesitated. We can't disclose all details yet. But part of it said, if she thinks she can take everything from me, she's mistaken. The words hit Lauren like a slap. Her hands began to tremble. He blames me? After everything he did? Evan's voice was low and steady. Yes, because men like Cole don't believe consequences apply to them. A knock on the lounge door made everyone tense. A hotel staff member stepped inside, holding a small tablet. Mr. Lancaster, she said quietly, there's something you need to see. A guest submitted a report from the parking garage. She handed the tablet to Evan. His expression darkened the moment he pressed play. A grainy security video filled the screen. Cole, disheveled, angry, pacing in circles, was standing beside a concrete pillar in the parking garage. He was talking to someone off camera, waving his arms violently. Then he walked toward a dark sedan, yanked the door open, and climbed inside. Seconds later, the car sped out of the garage. Lauren's voice cracked. Who was he talking to? Officer Raymond rewound the footage. A reflection in a car window briefly revealed the other person's face. It wasn't Sierra. It wasn't a coworker. It wasn't anyone Lauren recognized. It was a woman wearing a thick scarf, her features partly obscured, but her eyes unmistakably focused, intentional, cold. Officer Raymond zoomed in. The image blurred but remained clear enough. She entered the passenger side after him, the officer said quietly. This wasn't random. Lauren shook her head slowly, disbelief creeping into her face. Who is she? Evan stared at the screen, tension filling the space between them. I know exactly who she is, he said finally. And she's the last person Cole should be anywhere near. Lauren looked at him with dread. Evan, who is that woman? Evan exhaled deeply, eyes never leaving the image. Her name is Marissa Vale, and she's been investigating Cole long before Stonebridge ever started. The room fell into a heavy silence the moment Evan spoke Marissa Vale's name. Even Officer Raymond paused, recognition flashing across his features. Lauren looked between them, her pulse drumming painfully against her ribs. Who is she? Lauren asked, barely finding her voice. Evan set the tablet down slowly. Marissa Vale is an independent financial investigator. The kind companies hire when they're terrified something will blow up publicly. She doesn't take every case, only the ones involving serious fraud. Officer Raymond added, she's also known for working quietly, behind the scenes, until she has enough evidence to bring a case down completely. Lauren swallowed. So she's been investigating Cole? For months, Evan said, long before Stonebridge admitted there was a problem. A shiver ran down her spine. Why would Cole meet with her? He should be avoiding her. That's exactly what worries me, Evan replied. If Cole knows he's about to lose everything, he might be desperate enough to negotiate, manipulate, or worse. Lauren pressed a trembling hand to her mouth. You think he's trying to bargain or hide evidence? Officer Raymond sighed. We don't know. But what we do know is that Marissa Vale rarely meets subjects of her investigations face to face, unless the situation has escalated beyond professional boundaries. Lauren looked back at the frozen frame of Marissa, sliding into the sedan beside Cole. Then why now? Before anyone could answer, the lounge doors opened, and a hotel staff member rushed in. Mr. Lancaster's security picked up something on the street cameras. Evan took the folder she handed him and flipped it open. Inside was a series of photos, time-stamped less than 15 minutes prior. They showed the dark sedan from the garage pulling over near a run-down industrial block on the edge of Manhattan. The neighborhood wasn't dangerous, but it was notoriously deserted at night, especially in winter. Lauren frowned. Why would they go there? Officer Raymond scanned the images. That area houses old storage units, closed offices, and a few abandoned warehouses. A chill crawled up Lauren's spine. That sounds like the last place someone should be meeting. It's the kind of place someone goes when they don't want to be seen, Evan said, or when they plan to do something they can't take back. Lauren felt a wave of nausea. You think Cole might hurt her? No, Officer Raymond said. Marissa Vale is too cautious for that. She wouldn't put herself at risk. But Cole? He might be grasping at any lifeline he can find. And if Retcher, or, Evan added quietly, she's there to warn him, the investigation is no longer in his favor. Lauren felt dizzy again. I need to know what's happening. I need to know what he's planning. Evan gently placed a hand on her shoulder. You will, but you don't go anywhere near Cole, not until we're sure it's safe. She nodded, though her chest felt tight. The twins. They're safe upstairs, Evan reassured. Protected, watched. Lauren inhaled shakily, grounding herself. But then Officer Raymond's radio crackled. Unit 6, we found something. The sedan registered to Cole Whitmore just re-entered Manhattan. Unknown direction. Officer Raymond's eyes snapped up. They're back. Lauren's breath stilled. Where is he going now? Before he could answer, the radio crackled again urgently this time. Unit 6, be advised. The sedan stopped near Lancaster Suites. The driver exited. It appears to be Marissa Vale. Evan straightened sharply, and she's headed toward the main entrance. Lauren's heart lurched violently. She's coming here? Officer Raymond moved toward the door. We need to intercept her before she reaches anyone. Lauren tried to stand, but her legs trembled. Why would she come to me? What does she want? Evan looked toward the hallway, tension etched across his features. She's not here for you, Lauren. He turned toward her, expression unreadable, voice grim. She's here for me. And now stay. The elevator doors slid open with a soft chime, but the tension in the hallway felt sharp enough to split glass. Lauren stood halfway behind Evan as Officer Raymond and his partner moved into position. The corridor outside the lounge was lined with winter decor, garlands, twinkling lights, shimmering ornaments, but the warm glow did nothing to soften the icy dread tightening in Lauren's throat. Footsteps approached. Slow. Measured. Confident. A moment later, Marissa Vale stepped into view. She was nothing like Lauren expected. No cold, angry investigator. No tired accountant, drained by endless files. Instead, Marissa moved with an eerie calmness, shoulders back, chin level, wrapped in a charcoal coat dusted with snow. Her dark hair was pulled into a precise twist, and her sharp eyes flicked across the hallway with unsettling focus. When she saw Evan, she stopped. Her expression was unreadable, almost gentle. "Mr. Lancaster," she said. "We need to talk." In 1-4, Officer Raymond stepped forward. "Miss Vale, this is an active police concern. You'll speak to us first." Marissa barely glanced at him. "I'm not here to discuss the investigation." Her eyes shifted, landing on Lauren. For a long, unsettling moment, Marissa simply studied her. Not with contempt, not with judgment, but with a strange, quiet intensity that made Lauren straighten instinctively. "You're her," Marissa murmured. "The woman he's trying so desperately to erase. Thanks for watching." Lauren swallowed hard. "Erase?" Marissa nodded. "Cole Whitmore has been hiding assets, shifting blame, and rewriting timelines for months. And every time your name appeared in the paperwork, he flagged it as irrelevant. You were never irrelevant. You were the warning sign he worked hardest to bury." Lauren felt the floor wobble beneath her. Evan stepped in front of her. "Why are you here? What do you want?" Marissa's gaze lifted to him, a flicker of something complicated, crossing her features. "To warn you." Evan's jaw tightened. "About what?" "Cole," she said simply. "He believes the world is turning against him. And when men like him feel cornered, they don't go quietly. They lash out at the last person who challenged their control." Lauren shivered. "Me." "No," Marissa said softly. "You were the first." Her eyes shifted back to Evan. "You're the one he blames. He told me himself in the car. He thinks you poisoned his wife. He thinks you're stealing his family and his career." Evan exhaled sharply. "That's ridiculous." "Perhaps," Marissa replied, "but Cole doesn't see reason. He sees threats, and you, Mr. Lancaster, are the biggest one." Officer Raymond stepped forward. "Where is he now? Where did you two go after the parking garage?" Marissa hesitated. Then, he panicked. He said he knew where he needed to go. He refused to let me follow. I got out of the car before he drove off again. Lauren felt her heartbeat thunder. Where did he go?" Marissa finally looked at her, really looked at her. "To someone he believes he can still control." Officer Raymond stiffened. "Do you mean the children?" "No," Marissa said quickly. "He doesn't know where the twins are. He never asked." That stung deeper than Lauren expected. Marissa continued, her voice lowering. "He went to confront the only other person he hates as much as he fears losing." Everyone fell silent. Lauren's pulse hammered. Evan's expression hardened. "Who?" he demanded quietly. Marissa inhaled deeply. Cole went to find Sierra Hale. Sierra Hale lived in a sleek apartment on the edge of Tribeca, floor-to-ceiling windows, minimalist decor, and a level of luxury that someone in her position should never have afforded. Julian Cross had paid for most of it. Cole had paid for the rest. And now, the woman who had manipulated them both paced her living room, clutching her phone with trembling fingers. She had seen the news. She had watched the footage. Cole suspended. The gala scandal exploding online. Lauren standing tall while the world applauded her courage. Sierra knew immediately. The empire she built from secrets and seduction was collapsing. She tried calling Julian, no answer. She considered fleeing too late. She poured herself a drink, her hands were shaking too hard. A sudden pounding at her door made her drop the glass, shards scattering across the hardwood floor. "No, no, no," she whispered, backing away. The pounding grew louder. "Sierra," Cole's voice thundered from the hallway, wild and unhinged. "Open the door." Her panic spiked. "Cole, go home. You're not thinking clearly." "Open it," he growled, "before I break it down." She hesitated 1 second too long. The door burst open, slamming against the wall with a force that made her gasp. Cole stood there, eyes bloodshot, hair disheveled, suit rumpled as if he'd clawed at it in the car. He wasn't just angry, he was unraveling. "What did you do?" he demanded, stepping inside. Sierra stumbled backward. "Cole, you need to calm down." "No," he roared. "You ruined everything. You handed things to the board, didn't you? You sabotaged me." "Wed." "I didn't sabotage you," she snapped, fear finally cracking into anger. "You sabotaged yourself. You were reckless. You thought you were untouchable." Cole grabbed her wrist. "You set me up." Sierra winced. "Cole, you're hurting me, let go." But he pulled her closer, eyes burning. "You think you can walk away now? After everything I gave you? After everything I risked?" She pushed him, voice breaking. "What you gave me? You used me for attention. For ego. You never cared about me." He froze. Something in his expression twisted. "What did you just say?" Sierra's chest rose and fell rapidly. "You treated me like a prop, like a distraction. I played along because Julian promised I'd be promoted after your downfall." Cole's grip loosened, then tightened again. "So it was you," he whispered. "You and Julian. You destroyed my job." Sierra shook her head desperately. "Cole, listen to me, there's still time to fix this. If you turn in the missing files, maybe Stonebridge will reconsider." Cole's face contorted. "You think I still have them? You think I'd let them take everything?" Sierra stared at him, realization dawning. "You already destroyed them," she whispered. "Didn't you?" Cole stepped back, breathing hard. Sierra's voice rose in panic. "Cole, do you understand what that means? They'll charge you, and Julian will abandon me. And Lauren," Cole hissed, "won't get the satisfaction of seeing me lose." Sierra froze. "Lauren? Cole, don't you dare." "She made me look weak," he snapped. "She humiliated me." Sierra's eyes widened with fear. "Cole, think. You go near her, and you'll ruin your life completely." Cole's voice dropped to a chilling whisper. "I don't care." Sierra stepped in front of the door, blocking him. "No, I won't let you drag me down with you." Cole's expression hardened. "Get out of my way." Sierra trembled but held her ground. Then her phone buzzed on the counter. She glanced at the screen, her face drained of all color. Cole scowled. "What is it?" Sierra slowly looked up, horror filling her eyes. "It's Lauren," she whispered. "She's coming here." When Lauren stepped out of the Lancaster Suites, the winter air struck her with a force that shocked her out of fear and into clarity. Evan had insisted she stay behind, but she couldn't, not when Sierra's address appeared on her phone moments earlier, accompanied by a single, cryptic message. "You need to hear the truth from me. Come alone." Lauren didn't know why Sierra reached out. Was it guilt? Fear? Desperation? Or a warning? But whatever it was, Lauren felt deep down she had to go. Not for Cole, not for Sierra, for herself. For the years she'd lost, for the parts of her heart shattered by secrets she still didn't understand. She took a cab to Tribeca, her fingers twisting the edge of her coat, her stomach churning with dread. Snow drifted past the windows in soft, dizzying swirls. Every second felt like walking toward the center of a storm she'd spent years running from. When she reached Sierra's building, the lobby attendant recognized her instantly from the news. He hesitated, then buzzed her up without a word. The elevator ride felt endless. At the penthouse floor, the doors slid open with a muted ring. Voices spilled through the hallway, muffled, frantic, sharp. Lauren approached the door slowly. Her pulse hammered so hard she thought she might faint. She raised her hand and knocked once. Silence. Then the door flew open. Sierra stood there, eyes red, cheeks streaked with tears, skin pale with fear. Behind her, the apartment was in disarray. A glass shattered on the floor, chairs pushed aside as if someone had stumbled or struggled. "Lauren," Sierra breathed. "You came." Lauren swallowed. Her voice trembled despite her efforts. "Where is he?" Sierra stepped aside. "Inside." Lauren walked in cautiously. Cole stood near the window, hands braced on the glass, shoulders rising and falling with uneven breaths. Snow reflected off the skyline behind him, casting a cold glow across his face. He looked older, angrier, like a man unraveling thread by thread. When he turned, the intensity in his eyes made Lauren freeze. Why are you here? He demanded. Lauren steadied herself. I came because Sierra asked me to. His gaze snapped toward Sierra. You brought her into this? I didn't bring anyone. Sierra shot back. You're out of control, Cole. I'm out of control? He barked. You're the traitor. Lauren stepped forward, voice low but firm. Cole, stop. If you want to do. He looked at her with a twisted mixture of arrogance and desperation. You think you can walk back into my life with cameras and applause and pretend you're innocent? I don't need to pretend, Lauren said quietly. I survived you. His jaw tightened. A vein pulsed at his temple. You humiliated me. You ruined my career. You ruined it yourself. You turned everyone against me. You did that on your own. Cole's breath grew ragged. You think Evan Lancaster cares about you? You think he's your savior? He's using you, Lauren. Just like Sierra used me. Just like everyone uses everyone. Lauren shook her head slowly. No, Cole, not everyone. He stepped closer, too close. You think you can take the twins? You think I'll let you destroy me? Lauren didn't step back. You destroyed yourself the moment you stopped caring about your family. Sierra spoke suddenly, voice cracking. Cole, tell her the truth. Dacian. Cole's head snapped toward her. Shut up. Tell her, Sierra shouted. Tell her what you told me in the car. Lauren felt her stomach drop. Cole, what did you say? He didn't answer. Sierra whispered, trembling. He said he didn't care if he lost everything, as long as you didn't win. Lauren felt the air leave her lungs. I loved you, she said softly. And you hated me for surviving you. Cole's face twisted. Lauren. A sharp knock jolted all three of them. Officer Raymond's voice boomed from the hallway. Open the door, now. Cole froze. Sierra gasped. Lauren turned slowly toward the entrance, dread climbing her spine. And when the door burst open, it wasn't the police who stepped inside, it was someone they never expected. When the door burst open, Lauren instinctively stepped back, bracing herself for Officer Raymond, or worse, more chaos. But the figure standing in the doorway wasn't a police officer, nor a threat. Instead, a tall woman with gentle eyes and snow tangled in her dark scarf stood facing them, her breath heavy from climbing the stairs. Emily? Sierra whispered, stunned. What are you doing here? Lauren's heartbeat stuttered. She recognized the name. Emily Calder, Sierra's older sister. The one Sierra had claimed hadn't spoken to her in years. The one who supposedly disapproved of everything Sierra did. But the woman in the doorway wasn't cold or distant. She looked determined. I came, Emily said, stepping inside without hesitation, because I'm done watching from the sidelines. Cole blinked, taken off guard. Who are you? Emily ignored him, turning instead toward Sierra, her sister looking suddenly very small under her gaze. You called me, Emily said softly. You told me everything. Sierra's chin quivered. I panicked. I didn't know who else to turn to. It's comment. You did the right thing, Emily replied, brushing a strand of hair behind Sierra's ear with surprising tenderness. Then her expression hardened, shifting into something fierce. But now, the truth needs to be said. All of it. She stepped forward, positioning herself between Sierra and Cole, her presence unexpectedly protective. Lauren watched, breath caught in her chest. Cole scoffed. This is ridiculous. Stay out of it. This is between us. Emily turned slowly, her eyes sharp as glass. No, Cole. This concerns every life you've harmed, including mine. Lauren frowned. Yours? Emily took a deep breath. Cole wasn't just cheating with Sierra. He was lying to her, too, manipulating her, using her vulnerabilities to make himself feel powerful. Sierra swallowed hard. Emily. But Emily continued. He made promises, false ones, so Sierra would help him cover up questionable transfers. He told her he'd protect her career if she backed him. He pushed her into Julian Cross's circle because he knew she needed the financial security. Lauren stared at Cole in disbelief. You used her to hide your own crimes? Cole's face reddened. You don't understand anything. Sierra knew exactly what she was doing. No, Emily cut in sharply, her voice cracking with anger. She didn't. She thought you cared. She thought you were her chance to escape the life she grew up in. Sierra's eyes filled with tears. Emily, stop. Lauren stepped forward. Sierra, is this true? Sierra's facade finally broke. She nodded slowly. I made terrible choices. I let greed get to me, But Cole, he knew my weaknesses. He made me believe we were building something. I didn't realize he was building a trap. Cole barked a humorless laugh. You're all pathetic. Emily turned to him, her voice trembling but strong. And you're done. At that moment, Officer Raymond reappeared behind Emily, breathless. We tracked Cole's sedan again, he said urgently. It's double parked downstairs. That means backup is on the way. Cole stiffened. You can't arrest me without proof. Raymond's eyes narrowed. We have more than enough now. Panic flickered in Cole's expression for the first time. But before anyone could react, he lunged not at the officers, not at Sierra, but at Lauren. Everything happened fast. Emily shoved Sierra aside. Raymond reached for his cuffs. Lauren stumbled backward, and Evan, breathless from sprinting up the stairs, burst into the room just as Cole grabbed Lauren's arm. Lauren, Evan shouted. Lauren gasped, her fear twisting into something sharp and painful. Cole tightened his grip, and Evan's voice thundered across the apartment. Let her go now. The room erupted the moment Evan's voice shattered through the air. Cole froze mid-movement, Lauren's wrist still in his grip. For a second, no one breathed. No one blinked. The tension was so sharp, it felt like the entire apartment was holding itself upright on a thread. Let her go. Evan stepped forward, each word cutting through the panic like steel. Lauren could feel her own heartbeat crashing against her ribs. Cole's fingers dug into her arm, not enough to injure, but enough to send a wave of old fear down her spine. His eyes were wild, unfocused, the eyes of a man who no longer recognized consequences. She ruined my life, Cole hissed, tightening his grip. She took everything from me. Lauren gathered every piece of courage she had rebuilt these past days. Her voice was steady, but filled with the undeniable truth of someone who had finally reclaimed herself. I didn't take anything from you, Cole. You lost everything because you chose to. Cole flinched, as if the words physically struck him. Officer Raymond moved cautiously from the doorway. Mr. Whitmore. Release her now. This is your last warning. But Cole wasn't listening. His eyes stayed locked on Lauren, a storm of anger and desperation twisting inside him. You were supposed to stay, he muttered. Stay home. Stay quiet. Stay loyal. Lauren stared back, unbroken. I stayed for too long. Evan stepped closer. This ends now, Cole. The investigation, the lies, the threats. You don't get to control her anymore. Cole's eyes flicked toward Evan, full of hatred. You think you're better than me? No, Evan said quietly. I think Lauren deserved better than you. The words snapped something inside Cole. He lunged. Not at Evan. At Lauren. But Evan reacted first, pulling Lauren back, shielding her with his body. Officer Raymond surged forward, grabbing Cole's shoulders, but the man fought with the frantic strength of someone who saw his life slipping through his fingers. Stop resisting, the officer barked. Sierra screamed. Emily pulled her away. The apartment erupted into chaos, shouts, scuffling, the thud of bodies hitting furniture. Lauren's knees trembled, but Evan kept her upright. Are you okay? He asked, breathless. She nodded, though her heart was still racing uncontrollably. Cole twisted wildly under the officer's grip. You think this is over? You think you can replace me? He snarled at Lauren. You're nothing without me. Lauren stepped forward. Not in fear. In resolution? That was true once, she said softly. Not anymore. Her voice calm, unwavering, seemed to pierce through the frenzy. Cole's struggles slowed, his chest heaved, his face contorted into something almost broken. You were supposed to love me, he whispered. Lauren felt something inside her settle, peace, firm and final. I did, but love without respect becomes survival, and I refuse to spend the rest of my life surviving you. For the first time, Cole stopped fighting. He sagged against the officer's hold, his gaze flickering between Lauren and Evan as if searching for a version of the world that still existed. But it was gone. Everything he thought he controlled, everything he thought he owned, everything he thought he could bend, had slipped through his hands. Officer Raymond signaled to his partner, cuff him. The metallic click echoed like the closing of a chapter. Cole lowered his head, breath trembling. Lauren exhaled shakily, her entire body numb. Evan squeezed her shoulder gently. It's over. But before Lauren could respond, before she could process the relief or the exhaustion, Raymond's radio crackled sharply. Unit 3. Urgent update. The judge has issued an emergency ruling regarding custody of the children. Lauren's breath caught. The officer exchanged a look with Evan, then turned to her. Mrs. Whitmore, the court just made a decision that changes everything. I haven't so. For a moment, Lauren couldn't hear anything but the pounding of her own heart. The room around her blurred the officers, Sierra, Emily, even Evan's steady presence, all fading beneath the weight of Raymond's words. Mrs. Whitmore, the court has issued an emergency ruling regarding the children. Her breath caught painfully. What kind of ruling? Raymond pulled a folded document from his jacket, the paper marked with the court's seal. Given tonight's events, combined with the evidence gathered, including the footage of Mr. Whitmore's behavior, Cole jerked against the officers restraining him. Don't you dare! Raymond ignored him. The judge has granted you temporary sole custody of the twins. Lauren's knees nearly buckled. Evan caught her elbow, steadying her as relief rushed through her in a wave so overwhelming she had to close her eyes. Sole custody? She whispered. Yes, Raymond said gently. Full temporary rights. Mr. Whitmore is barred from contact until a formal hearing. Cole thrashed at the words. This is illegal. You can't take my kids, Lauren. Don't let them do this. They're mine. Lauren slowly opened her eyes. For the first time since the night she fled into the snow, her voice carried no fear, only certainty. They're not yours to control, she said softly. They never were. Cole stared at her, stunned by the quiet strength in her tone. He tried to speak, but the officers pulled him toward the door. As he was escorted out, Sierra let out a shaky breath. Emily wrapped an arm around her, whispering something Lauren couldn't hear. The chaos settled, replaced by a fragile stillness. Lauren looked at Officer Raymond. What happens now? We'll take him in for processing, he replied. Then the investigation continues. You, Miss Hale, and Miss Calder will likely be asked to submit additional statements. End quote. Sierra nodded silently, her gaze lowered. Lauren exhaled and turned toward the window, where the city lights glowed against the falling snow. The past weeks had felt like drowning. Now, for the first time, she could lift her head above the water. But her relief was cut short when Raymond spoke again. There's one more thing. Lauren turned to him carefully. What is it? Raymond hesitated. The judge wants you moved somewhere private until the hearing. Somewhere secure. This case, it's high profile now. Evan stepped forward at once. She'll stay at Lancaster Suites. The penthouse has already been secured. Raymond nodded. Good. But tomorrow morning, you'll need legal representation. Someone strong. Evan's voice softened. She already has that. Lauren met his eyes, and for a moment, the room faded away. The weight of everything, fear, survival, heartbreak, pressed into that single gaze. Then Sierra spoke, her voice trembling. Lauren, before you go, I need to tell you something. Lauren turned toward her. Sierra swallowed hard. You don't owe me forgiveness. Not ever. But I want you to know I'm not going to run. I'm going to testify. Everything Cole did, everything Julian involved me in. I'll make it right. Lauren studied her, the woman who helped tear her life apart, but was now trying to stitch together the truth. Then do what's right, Lauren said gently. For yourself. I.D. Sierra nodded, tears slipping silently down her cheeks. Evan guided Lauren toward the door, his touch light but grounding. Let's get you home, he murmured. Home didn't sound like a place anymore. It sounded like safety, a future, a beginning. But as they reached the elevator, Raymond's radio crackled again. Update on Whitmore, a voice said. There's something wrong. He's not cooperating, and he's demanding one final request before we book him. Lauren's breath froze. What request? She whispered. Raymond listened, eyes sharpening. Then he turned to Lauren slowly. He wants to see you. He says it's about the twins, and he won't speak unless you're there. Lauren didn't want to go. Every instinct inside her screamed for her to stay with the twins, stay in the safety of the Lancaster Suites, stay far away from the man who had broken her piece by piece. But Officer Raymond insisted, and Evan, though clearly uneasy, told her gently, You don't have to face him alone. I'll be right beside you. So she went. The precinct was quiet when they arrived, the scent of stale coffee lingering in the air. Cole sat in a small interview room, cuffs on his wrists, his once perfect suit wrinkled, his hair disheveled. He looked nothing like the man who used to stride through boardrooms with arrogance dripping from every step. He looked defeated. When Lawrence stepped inside, he lifted his head slowly. His eyes were bloodshot, but behind the chaos there was something she had never seen in him before. Exhaustion, maybe regret, but not enough to undo what he'd done. "You came," he said hoarsely. Lauren stood tall, Evan behind her, like a quiet pillar of strength. "You said it was about the twins." Cole exhaled shakily. I needed to say something before they take me away." Ivory 4. "You should talk to the officers," Lauren replied calmly. "Not me." "No," he insisted, voice cracking. "You. Always you." She didn't respond. Cole's gaze dropped to the table. "I ruined everything. I know that now. I tried to win, to look powerful, and I lost the only people who mattered." Lauren's throat tightened, but not from love. "From closure?" "I'm not asking for forgiveness," Cole whispered. "I just want you to know. The twins were never in danger. I would never hurt them." "Everyone." Lauren's chest ached because she wished she could believe him, but she knew better. "You didn't protect them, either." Cole's eyes filled with something broken. "I loved you, Lauren." "No," she said gently. "You loved control. You loved the idea of me, not me." He closed his eyes, shoulders slumping. Officer Raymond stepped inside. "Mr. Whitmore, it's time." Cole nodded weakly. But as the officer reached for him, Cole looked up one last time. "Lauren, I hope you find something better. Someone better." She felt Evan's steady presence beside her, warm and grounding. "I already did," she said softly. Cole's expression faltered, then softened in surrender. He didn't fight the officers this time. He simply let himself be led away, the door closing behind him with a final, echoing click. A chapter ending. A life untangling. A future opening. Outside the precinct, the sun was rising golden, warm, casting light across the melting snow. Lauren inhaled deeply, the cold air filling her lungs with something sharp but cleansing. "It's over," Evan murmured. Lauren turned to him. For the first time in years, her smile wasn't forced. "Yes, it is." They walked back to the SUV, and when Evan held the door open for her, their eyes met steady, certain, unhurried. No promises. No pressure. Just understanding. Back at the Lancaster Suites, the twins were sleeping peacefully, tiny hands curled into fists, soft breaths drifting through the room. Lauren leaned over them, brushing her fingers across their foreheads. "We're safe now," she whispered. "We're free." When she stood, Evan was watching her with a quiet tenderness. "What happens now?" she asked. "Whatever you choose," he said. Lauren stepped closer, heart calm, voice steady. "Then, I choose a new beginning. These first." "These first?" And as Evan smiled, genuine, warm, impossibly patient, Lauren felt the weight of every hardship lift, not erased, not forgotten, but transformed. She wasn't broken. She wasn't hiding. She wasn't surviving anymore. She was living. And as the morning light poured through the windows, she finally understood. Her story didn't end with betrayal. It began with freedom. And this time, she walked into her future, with her head held high and love waiting on the other side. So, that's it, my wonderful friends. Our story has finally come to a close. And if you're still here with me right now, listening until the very last moment, then something in Lauren's journey must have touched your heart in its own quiet way. Maybe it reminded you of your own strength. Maybe it showed you how pain can shape us without destroying us. Or maybe it simply made you realize you deserve more than the things you've silently carried. The Stoics used to say, "The obstacle is the way," and Lauren's life is proof of that. What was meant to break her became the path that rebuilt her. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. And that's the truth, isn't it? Sometimes the world doesn't apologize. Sometimes the people we trust hurt us deeply. But healing begins the moment we decide, "I will not stay where I was broken." And when you cresto. If this story made you feel something, hope, courage, clarity, then don't keep it to yourself. Hit like, share it with someone who might need it tonight, and remember to subscribe so you never walk these emotional journeys alone. Because here, we heal together, and your story matters too.